So as I was cooking, I had this idea. I used to love these comic books by this artist Rube Goldberg when I was a kid. And I don't know if anybody has seen Rube Goldberg's stuff. I think he was back in the 50s or 60s putting these comics in the newspaper, and there were these long horizontal strips, and you had all these different objects, this whole cause and effect to this end result, like how to scratch your back. And then before, at the very end, the right side, you'd see a guy with a back scratcher attached to a pulley, and then there was like a flame candle that would light, that would release a whole domino effect with all kinds of goofy, zany objects, sometimes little animals, weird things along the way. It was almost like he was creating an invention to do something absurd. That scene in Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure in the beginning, where he has this huge contraption that makes his breakfast. And I had this idea as I was cooking to make a composition that kind of has this cause and effect, where you have one sound that maybe sort of morphs into another, and then this thing explodes. I don't want to try to mirror that idea of the comic word for word. I think it's definitely possible, but would take quite a bit of time to actually make it work really well. I also had an idea once of using envelopes and various triggers with Max for Live to create a domino effect piece of music, where you maybe start out with just a white noise burst, and then it would do all these different things along the way until after 4 minutes you've gotten to a completely different end result. I think it's an interesting concept, and a worthy thing to try and go for. But let's just do something simple here in the timeline. I'm going to start out with the white noise burst and run it through a bit of reverb, and we'll just use automation. Let me make sure we've got audio coming out to the headphones. We've got one. It's like, well, let me loop this. I guess I have a muted audio. Somehow that happens. I'm not really sure what causes that, because I sure didn't hit any mute buttons. Okay. So I think for this idea, we're not going to expect anything really great to come out of this. I think it's going to be more of an exercise in patience. I think we want to turn back on show all parameters. That way, when we click on anything, we get it automatically show up in the lane. One of these days, I'll spend the several weeks just building up a piece that has those envelopes and triggers. But for now, I want to see where we can get, maybe within an hour, maybe less. So we've got a delay of 16. That's a bit long. Let's give it a lot of feedback. And we'll add a reverb on the end there. I guess 2 reverbs. We don't need both. Maybe we do at some point. We'll see. We'll see where this takes us. And fade up the wet and dry. One cool thing about the reverb is this freeze function, which you can create a endless drone with. And we could add a bit of volume curve there, and let's put a resonator here. I'm just going to arbitrarily start dragging knobs, see where we get. Maybe we'll have this start out, fade out, and then fade back in. I think this will be the first switch off, where we pull the gain down all the way. Let's hear what happens. So I think I want this to be more abrupt, and I don't think I want as much resonator right at the intro. And I think I want a bit more time here. What I'm going to do is pull up my tempo, and I'm going to actually automate this tempo down to like 20 and just see what we get. And then let's introduce a new instrument. And for that, we will use the electric. Let's pull it. Copy this. Maybe we'll give ourselves even more runway time-wise. I really like automating the tempo. It can be very soothing. No, I don't know why, but you can get some really interesting results. And maybe that's why I really like. And if we adjust the seed, if you will, this little white noise. Okay, we didn't get as much initially sound coming out of it as I want. But I do like the little high-end clicky. Working in the timeline is its own beast and can be really relaxing, if you ask me. I think I want to draw this out to here. Draw this out a little longer. Let's give it. Luckily, with the freeze held, we can. And let's try to just add a second note. We'll start a new lane. Wow, I tell you, this electric is not very inspiring to me right out of the box. But maybe some of these presets. Not that interesting. Ah, kind of has a nice rattle to it, as though the instrument were just a little broken. If we pull this out. Okay. Now I want to hear what, if we duplicate this, we'll have to duplicate actually this whole section. So instead of something firing off up here, we'll have it fire off down. Well, let's copy this over into this lane, delete that. would repeat the movement twice, but we have to switch it up. I don't think we want for some reason I hear a different note than what we have going on right now. Let's move this out of the way. It seems like the levels are okay. Whoops. Whoops. There we go. And we wanted our gain to do more of a hard, and probably want to turn off our freeze here also. This will ensure that we're not burning up too many CPU cycles in excess. You know, we could actually have all of these grouped and just turn the whole thing off right here. That way we're only using what we need when we need it. That was odd. And I was hearing a bit of another tone. I'm just hitting random keys now, but with this thing turned off, obviously. Okay. Not sure where this is all heading, but when building up songs in here, it has to be kind of a liquid process where you have to sort of hear things along the way and know what to do to change or stuff around. It can be really boring at first. I think a lot of people get bogged down with this part of the process. And I think if we were mixing these down, that would make things probably go a little faster. I think having to preview in advance when you're doing all DSP and you have a lot of tails and a lot of reverb data, it can be yeah, I wish I could bring this tempo down even further, but instead I'm going to insert silence. Let me just make sure I'm doing this right. Yeah, I need this to go a bit longer here. Fade this one out already. And a bit of a high-pitched tone. Obviously, with this kind of a concept, a very experimental sound is works really well. That's harsh, just like right out of the box. Straight notes like that can really wear your ears out, unless they're pretty quiet. I don't want this one to just chop off, and I think I want this note to, let's go ahead and consolidate and drill in there and just pull this note. And I'm gonna use one of my go-to racks. I guess I could just search for it, but let's see, warp and flubber. And we'll have this erosion fade up and a bit of a reverb on that to make sure the tension is being. I like to shut my reverbs. Oh, Ableton is usually pretty good about if there's no sound going through their effects. Most of these will just really use no CPU, which is nice for live performances when you have a shit ton of effects. Let's play with the phase on that also. Really don't want things to be too repetitive. A little bit of familiarity, repetition is okay, I guess. And let's have this go up in pitch before we kill this lane here. I also wanted to try out this octaved up grain delay. Probably will sound Mickey Mousey, but and I want to get a bass thing, stab, if you will. Let's make these tighter. And we'll bring in the bass stab. We'll have a little bit of just a second of silence. And super low. You're not even be able to hear that unless we throw some saturation on it. At which point, who knows what'll happen. This bass. Well, that's deep. I hear that in my headphones, my little earbuds. I use these really cheap, I think they're like $10 Sony MDR LP15 something or the other headphones, and they honestly kick a lot of ass for their price. You know, I can actually take a mix, you know, from at least 0 to 60 to 70% before having to really get on the speakers to perfect the mix. It's great to have a nice pair of little in-ear buds. I can leave them in for hours. Can't get enough of them. See what happens when we sculpt. This sounds kickish. Bring the dynamics up. That's a bit of grit. Redux is something I have to use sparingly. I wish there was a wet and dry on it, but you can always make your own wet and dry with a rack, as I've done many, many times. I like it fading in, not, you know, when effects are just stagnant and stable the whole way, it's a bit too sterile. Yeah, I don't think that does much. And good old reverb. So I kind of liked that. Maybe we could put a bit of a texture. I'm not sure if that's what we want to really have here in the end. Again, when sculpting in the timeline, got to be really malleable, got to be open to change, open to delete stuff. Let's try the crackle maker. Love this crackle maker. It's amazing what you can just do with, if I may diverge a little bit, with just the built-in effects in Ableton. And, you know, render this sucker out at 192, super high res, and it sounds pretty smooth, honestly. I think I'm gonna pull this crackle maker over into this lane here and throw it before the reverb. Yeah, it's very generative, so in a way, obviously, in a way, it's one of those things you want to mix down to be able to really sculpt it the way you want it. And a bit of a tone coming through there. The auto filter does a great job of producing these sine tones, especially with some of the other, almost like how the pitch changes a little bit as you push the res. Very nice and analogish. Let's fade this up. And I'm going to record some of the automations. Yeah, give it a bit of a unpredictable Let's hear what maybe not that high up. Too weird. Let's undo. That wasn't terrible, honestly. I think I can live with that, but I want to hear it before the bit reduction. Maybe the bit reduction can fade up a little smoother. And maybe the crackles are just too loud here. We need to have them fade out a little smoother. Not like sometimes when things just... Sometimes you want things to just stop abruptly, and I don't know. It's all a matter of personal preference in the end. And copy paste this. Give that note really high up. That is painful. Could be cool to introduce a rhythm at this point, but I kind of hear every rhythm stab being different, having a unique. Let's push the rate on that. We could maybe very spacey. Okay. Let's just try some of that and maybe pull the volume down a little bit, have it fade up. I'm hearing a real tight reverb there. And automate this. Continuing with the idea from earlier in the beginning, let's have a utility push up the volume right to the end, right before this. So I'm going to get this marker right to the edge there and holding down Control Shift, just Shift really, I'm going to pull up this and then delete the first. So we got ourselves a nice ramp that is timed perfectly with that. As long as we don't have to move this, but we can play with our let's try one more of these. I'll go ahead and copy this whole section here, get all the automations. And I want to have less of this tonal resonator. Actually, let's just try to eliminate all of that resonator. And I think maybe we'll make some in the crackle maker. Could really do some bass up here maybe. Oh, very crunchy. Almost sounds like somebody crunching on chips or cereal. And this tone, this, oh, I want to adjust. I think something happened here. Oh, we have this set to record. That's annoying. Too much of this. I'm going to pull this down here. Maybe use this ramp. Will that work? Pull this down. Gosh, I hate that. It's so easy to just drag, you know, but sometimes you really just, I always forget, you gotta hold down shift to lock the Y. Ah, so annoying. So annoying. I wish we could add a threshold for that in the options or something. Where to go from here? Where to go? That's always the trick. Sometimes I go to just walk away from it. And when I come back, you know, I'll have a little bit more energy, a little bit more freshness, and I'll hear more ideas. But I also feel that sitting there and forcing oneself to kind of persevere through a situation that doesn't feel as fun as others is really good to do. Easier said than done. However, what am I doing here? I am messing stuff up. Why am I editing? Let's make sure we got this. I was working on the wrong layer. Crazy. So easy to do. This is really starting to sound like one of those minimalist, early 2000s minimalist. Get some white noise in there. We're not really doing any justice to the early 2000s. What am I doing? Oh man, okay. Let's see. Did I just edit the wrong? Sometimes I get mixed up and lost in my own. See, why is it clicking on that? Yeah, I've got all these keyboard shortcuts, but sometimes they bite me in the ass. Lots of tones. Again, where I'm thinking, we should just mix a lot of this down. See, I dropped that on the wrong layer. I just gotta look before I leap. We getting anything out of this? I suppose the note ended, so that really makes sense. Sounds like a little broken piece of gear. We could have this white noise do a bit of swelling and building, and then finally, maybe right around here, we will have ourselves a switch up. Something got to happen here. We could have a bit more of this. Pull in this first one here. I like this happening here. The idea of it. Spacey. Sounds like a Star Trek sound effect. What if we just... Wow, getting some unpredictable things happening there. I like that. Let's take it all away. And let's push this one up. Pass down. Let's give it some more volume lift. Could be fun to pull in something from a previous, that is this project, maybe this one. We had some add drone, beat, or just a little rip off. Pitter patters. Was it this one? Let's pull something in at this point. And we could obviously spend tons of time yeah. We could spend tons of time building everything from scratch, which seems like we didn't get a lot of the Yeah, the automations from this side, it definitely doesn't sound. Yeah. So instead of just dragging and dropping, I think what I'm going to do is just hit record. That sounds like a good stopping point. Actually, let's keep this going and sounding very weird. Yeah, it's too bindy, too bindy, too spacey. Have a little bit of unpredictable noise bursts. I always forget to turn off the record mode and I lose stuff that way a lot. The woes, nerd world problems. That's well, I didn't expect that. Yeah, it's nice to have that rhythm coming out of there. Where is that coming from? I think maybe it's from this delay. Sometimes the most odd random things happen, and then they can really help shape the rest of the song. Sounds like an insect almost. Let's try turning off the chorus. Swap it. Let's hear. Is it in slightly? Can't much tell the difference. So let's go ahead and just play with the pan on that. Sounding very avant-garde. I must say, this crazy violinist type effect is it's fun. Take this one down a notch. What is cutting off something? I think this, yep. And I want to hear this. I'm going to turn on this I think we're losing our loop though with where is that crackles? Oh, we still got some of that crackles going on here. That doesn't. That's interesting. Don't know if I totally like it yet, of course, but we could always just have it stop here. See how we're doing on times. 48, not too bad. This is something we could tweak forever and ever, add in all kinds of little bits of details. Why do I not hear anything? Probably because we have too much reverb on that. Maybe it's too high pitched. Yeah, that could be it. Too much volume. And I must play with the rate. Oh. Let's change the filter here to a high pass and pull that down a little bit. Pull this res up. Pretty Tweety bird. Less reverb. What over here? Thinking no attack. And pull down the sustain. Pull down the decay. Makes it a bit more of a texture at that point. Let's try one over here. With our switch up the bit dramatic there at the end, obviously. Kind of cheesy. If we throw some reverb on there, it may be, and not reverb, but distortion in here. It could scary movie. I've got to get my keyboard shortcuts adjusted here. They are just doing all kinds of weird stuff. It's probably because this is on also. Get different behaviors at that point. A lot of tricks. I see. I see what's happening here. Pull this down. Right. Too much sustain. Yikes. Kind of almost a shepherd tone. I'm now just pulling at strings here. And we pull the pitch of this down all the way. It's not easy sculpting with automation in this way, but you learn a few principles, and I think it can be rewarding. All right, so let's try it from the top. It's probably gonna suck once we hear it all. I mean, I'm sure I'll think of some things that need to be fixed and changed, timing issues, but this is just a sketch. Let's not try to control it too much. Here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and boost up my overall juice. Let's take it from here. I'm not sure what we have turning on and off that's taking up so much juice. It's probably something down in here, maybe. I think it's the crackle maker, plus a lot of other things. All right. Well, I mean, I guess for a sketch, it's, you know, it is what it is. It's all right. I mean, I'm surprised I didn't get this rhythmic stuff from this layer that I was getting earlier on. So, you know, we'd have to obviously investigate later what caused that. I know the rhythm was coming from here, but I'm not sure why we didn't get it this time. Maybe we need to turn on this infinite button, infinite loop. And yeah, not sure why we were getting those CPU spikes this time around. So I think if I really wanted to clean this up, I would go back and make sure I was, you know, turning things off when I didn't need them. And, you know, when you have a piece that's all timeline-based automation and using all DSP, you can even get some interesting sounds just jumping around. You could record the output of that right there. I like well, let's see if I can find it. There is a Max for Live effect. Honestly, yeah, those jumps. This random LFO, sample and hold LFO on the chorus definitely has a creepy vibe to it, and I think almost too sounding obvious, like a Hollywood soundtrack style spookiness that I think I would want to tame that somehow. So, and you know, I probably put a locator in here, tame. One of my caps lock is stuck on, whatever. Hotkeys, tame, atypical sounding Hollywood, horror stuff here. Add more rhythmic clicky clicks, or make them start earlier in the track. And I oftentimes will come back after a few days and read these and be like, what the heck was I thinking? Or sometimes I'll come back and listen to it and say, you know what, I don't agree with this note anymore. I am jumping all over the map here. Fix, excuse me, rhythmic stuff not working here. But otherwise, let's see, CPU spikes, turn off unneeded effects in instrument here. Okay, so all notes for later on, and this is how I like to write songs. I'll just end up doing so many listening passes where I add these notes in, go back and fix them. Let's see, I wanted to have these basically be turned off until we need them at the end, because otherwise they basically eat up CPU as they are on the master channel, and you have stuff running through them. Master effects. All right. Wow, that tone. Cool. Audio treasure. This is a Max for Live effect. I'm going to add it into the yeah, this basically, real simple, records constant stream of, I think this chunk here is like a minute, and it's always recording the ends and a little bit for, so as you can just jam out in it. And it's recording everything. So it's super useful if you're just messing around and you end up, oh wow, I like what I just heard. Well, then you have a copy of it here, and you can click this write to disk button and you can just dump it wherever. It is Max for Cats are geniuses, and this is a freebie, and I'm going to include it in this session because it is just a fabulous, super useful Max for Live device that I use all the time. So we, I think, had a pretty fun session today, just over an hour, and I think I'll leave it at that. So hopefully this was inspiring for you. I think I want to try this kind of idea in the future, maybe with some beats, maybe taking one of our older sketches and trying to lay it out this way. We'll see. But until next time, enjoy.